Blog Talk Radio.
Last night I saw a lunar eclipse in the sky. Then something happened in my mind's eye. I saw you in a whole different light. Clearly, really, it's not that I want you to change. It's more that I want you to stay the same.
Oh, and I really do want you to stay the same. I want you to stay right here with me for the next hour. I'm Bonnie D. Graham, a.k.a. Radiored. Very red this week, especially in the sunshine. And I'm calling in for you from Long Island, New York on the North Shore, and it's been a beautiful, beautiful day. This is my little corner of the world on Monday nights. We call ourselves Read My Lips. Once in a while, I think I'm going to change the name of the show to Read My Lisp, but I don't have a lisp, and neither do my guests, so there. I have to do a quick shout-out to LLL, our most loyal listener, lovely, lanky Laura Legs. Hope you are feeling well and enjoying a wonderful summer, Laura. And now let me tell you, this show is going to have two special guests. You know, my regular listeners know I meet my guests at the National Publicity Summit in New York. And today I have two beautiful ladies. They're not only beautiful, but they're smart, and they have very interesting stories to share with us. Let me give you a little clue, prepare you. First up, we're going to be talking to ladies, but guys, I think you could appreciate this too. The name of the book is Get Your Goddess On, Own Your Power, Love Your Life, and the author is Cat, C-A-T, Dolls, D-O-L-S, love the name. She's a goddess coach. She's a former Ford model. You should see her model the Rock the Gorgeous evening gown dress. Looks like right out of Cinderella on the cover of her book. And she uses touching stories, relatable, a little bit of humor, and some very dramatic things that happened in her own life. Kat helps women overcome adversity. She certainly has, and helps women embrace change. Man, that's why you need to listen, because you need to be there for your woman, and you might learn how to embrace change and adversity as well, and helps women realize growth and transformation. We are going to talk about a couple of difficult topics with Kat, so I just want to warn you, well, we won't use any language, but there are some things that happened in her life that were not very pretty and kind of on the rough side. I'm trying to be gentle here, so be prepared, but I'll warn you when we're there. We're going to talk about topics of why are women so impressed by powerful men. That's part of the problem. Simple tools to free yourself from your past. And are you a yes woman who can't say no? Remember there was a song, I think, from Oklahoma, I'm just a girl who can't. Well, we'll talk about that with Kat. Second half, we're going to get down to a different kind of serious business with another very smart, beautiful lady, Diane Huth. H-U-T-H rhymes with my late mother's name, Ruth, so I like her name. Diane is a branding specialist. She calls herself the accidental career coach. I don't know why accidental, because she seems to me like a very, very, very high-powered, astute, and savvy career coach. Her book is Brand You, ! To land your dream job. A step-by-step guide to find a great job, get hired, and jumpstart your career. But we're not going to really focus on the original purpose of her book was people in college, young people. We're going to focus on baby boomers. Those of you who know what a boomer is, those don't. Born somewhere around, 1946 through 64, I believe, is the official, unofficial demographic cohort range for boomers. And why will we be talking about boomers in the job market? Well, shock and amazement. Many boomers are retiring, and then they say, whoops, what did I do? I want to go back to work. But once they get back there, they're finding out the plum jobs are being grabbed by the M word, the millennials. Diane's going to help us get some tips on how you can either keep the job as you age and age a job in place, if you will, or get back into the workforce. Some really powerful advice in her book, so you don't want to miss that either. Let's see now. We have some celebrity birthdays. Whose names do I recognize? David Hasselhoff. Oh, my, is he really having another birthday? That adorable man from, Knight Rider and Baywatch. Yes, he had the kit car that talked to him. Born in 1952. He's a young one. Phoebe Snow, the singer. She's the twin. She's born the same day. Lucy Arnaz, still around, born in 1951. Spencer Davis, the musician, in 1939. Diane Carroll, beautiful actress, born in 1935. Let's see, Donald Sutherland, still around, 1934. Phyllis Diller, I think she recently left us, 1917. The novelist Earl Stanley Gardner was born today in the 1880s, and John Astor, the fur tycoon, and I think the Astor family. Also, Art Linkletter. I have a copy of his book. Not easy to get. Kids say the darndest thing. What a great fun show that was. So without further ado, it's time to get our goddess on with my very special first guest, Ms. Kat Dahls. Kat, welcome to Read My Lips. How are you?
I am fabulous, and thank you for having me on.
We're delighted. I'm delighted. The world is delighted. And, Kat, I just have to tell people the cover of your book. I mentioned you're rocking this evening gown. It's lavender. You're standing up against, looks like a door in a country stone home. And you've got the most magnificent blonde curly hair in this purple dress with little polka dots in the fabric. And it looks like you have a great big crinoline underneath it. Just tell me about the dress quickly before we start your topic, Kat. Where'd you get it?
Well, the dress actually came from a resale shop, and I had it on for the show. For the opportunity to take the pictures, and then, of course, it didn't quite come together in the back. So eventually, I took it back to the resale shop and got a different one that actually fit because people started asking me to wear it to events. So I was very excited. And I said, okay, I think I need to be able to wear this on a regular basis. So now I have one that actually fits.
Well, that's lovely. And I can say that you look like I would say if I didn't know the title of your book, I'd say you look like a princess. But now I'd say you look like a goddess. So let's dissect this topic. Kat, a lot of people talk about women should be goddesses. And we know that the word sex goddess was bandied about for many years, probably still is somewhere, a little bit less obviously though. How do you define goddess? Why are we talking about this now? It's 2017. I think 57% of college populations are women, although not a lot of college presidents are. Women are a major domination in the workforce, starting to come into their own as startup entrepreneurs. Why do we want to go back to an old-fashioned term like goddess? Talk to me, Kat.
Well, actually, I don't think that goddess is an old-fashioned term at all. It's a very respectful term, and I think it's a very powerful term, too, because I think the goddess place is that space in every woman that is her inner power, that the confidence and knowing who you are in the world and what you are creating in the world is a very amazing space to be in. There is so much to be owned when we really look at who we are, what we're doing here, and it's a compass that we can use to help ourselves to know if we're on the right track or not, because sometimes, obviously our lives don't always work perfectly all the time, and we know we're kind of off base. Well, when our goddess is on, our compass is pointing exactly where it needs to be. And I think that's where the authenticity comes in, and that's where the accountability and the desire to produce those fabulous results in the world to make that difference. That's what our goddess is. And it's so wonderful to be around women who have their goddess on. I don't know, like you, as a matter of fact.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you. I feel very complimented now that I heard the definition. I looked up goddess definition, and of course there are all kinds of. They're talking about deities, and they're talking about deities, God, goddess from way back in ancient Greece. And I'm looking here at the Urban Dictionary, Kat. It says a woman who is. You're going to like this one. Who is so beautiful, so brilliant, and so wholesome that she's simply not like any other woman on earth and therefore possesses an uncommon spiritual element that cannot be solidly defined, but it is clearly present. Can we take bits and pieces of that, Kat? Is that okay? I think it's a pretty good one. What do you think?
I just got goosebumps when you read it because that's exactly what it is. I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So it's on urbandictionary.com, and just Google the word goddess and its definition number 2. And the example they give, what do they say to kids? Use it in a sentence, Bobby. The sentence is, Sarah is amazing. She's a true goddess. And we even have goddess, we have goddess hashtags and, oh, my goodness, deities and spirituality. Good. Thank you very much for letting me do that. I love to look stuff up. So now let's talk about some of the rough stuff. So part of being a goddess, I read from your book, Kat, is that you own your power. You don't let other people push you, step on you, goad you into being someone else. You give up your title, and you wore the crown apparently for much of your life, Miss Congeniality, and I'm not talking about the movie with Sandra Bullock. I'm talking about everybody has to love me. I have to be nice. Everybody has to think I'm sweet. Nobody can really hear my voice and my power. Did you get tired of that, or did you really enjoy it? Let's go there first, Kat. What do you think?
You know what? I didn't know anything else. So I owned that title for a really long time because I didn't know anything else. My mother and my grandmothers and my aunts, they would show me that example, so I followed that example. And then I also knew that that's what my father expected and my grandfather. So this is what I saw in my family. This was not anything new. And the funny thing about the dress, when you were bringing it up before, I felt like I was the servant to everyone else. I didn't have a voice. And that was why I identified with Cinderella so much. And that's why I looked like Cinderella at the ball, because that's what I identified with as what my goddess would look like. So that's part of the problem, is that I didn't know anything else. But you know what? I just felt very comfortable in it for a long time, uncomfortably comfortable in it, because that's what I knew what was true. Okay. Now, is it good for me? No, because that's how a lot of the adversity that happened in my life, that was the really nasty, gnarly stuff, it really happened because I was being too nice. And I didn't stand up for myself enough. And you end up getting in trouble, and then you end up changing your life because of what you have been okay with. And it's not okay to keep saying yes when you want to say no. It's not okay at all. So I'm feeling it's incredibly empowering for me to be able to have that sense of being able to say no anytime I want to right now, and encourage other women to say that and practice with each other. I mean, I had to practice in the mirror, literally had to practice in the mirror for a while, saying, no, I can't do that. So what I say instead a lot of times when somebody puts me on the spot, you know, that's excellent. I'm going to get back to you on that. Can I get back to you tomorrow on that? And I'll say something like that. And then it takes the power away from me to drain myself of my power, because it takes that moment. You know, it gives me an opportunity to be able to say no very comfortably, because I've also researched my calendar. I've looked at things, and no, it's not going to work for me.
Sure.
You know, very comfortably now. So that's part of it. But congeniality is a disease. It really is. It's. I moved around. I moved around as a child. I went to 4 schools for high school, 2 for middle school, and 2 for grade school. So when you're in that position of the new girl in town, the new kid in the block,
always the new girl, right?
It's easy to say, oh, well, I have to end up in a situation where I say, I have to do what they are doing so I can fit in with them. I can't be different, because then they'll make fun of me, and they don't get to be a part of their group. And that's what I lived. That's all I knew. So that's actually what happens in college a lot of times, where girls go to college, and guys too, and when they're doing this and they don't know what the limits are, they don't know what to say yes or no on, and they just want to fit in and be a part of the crowd. And that's what happened. Part of what happened to me when I went, and I was a statistic, being raped and beaten up when I was in college, my second year. So that's
and
I
wanted to get to that. We're going to talk about that now. So I warned or alerted, I'll use the word alerted, my listeners, that we're going to talk about some rough stuff. So Kat, amazingly, somewhere, your book is 250 pages, so somewhere, not at the very beginning, but somewhere into the book, you mentioned that your daughter was aware of this rape when you were in college, and she asked you, your daughter was 18, so that was 7 years ago, you told me. She asked you to write a poem about it because she wanted to read the poem in one of her classes, and she told you it had to be 8 minutes long. And it sounds like she unleashed some power in you, Kat. You sat down and you wrote, and you wrote, and you wrote, and you wrote. And it's not a fun-looking, fun, rhyming, A-B rhyme scheme poem. It's a prose piece, I'll call it, that go with it's, what is it called? The Moon? What is the name of it? Remind me.
The Moon, yes.
The
Yeah.
moon, yes, and it's about whether there's really cheese in the moon. You made it very lyrical by keeping on going back to that theme, but the poem is brutal. And I'd like you to tell just a little bit about what it was like when your daughter asked you to write a poem about your horrible assault that somebody perpetrated on you. And this was a man you were dating, a boyfriend, and all you did was stand up and say, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. So in whatever language you want, why don't you tell us a little bit about the experience of your daughter asking you, what it took for you to agree to do it, and how you decided how much detail to put in the poem. I'm going to let you tell us. Go ahead, Kat.
Well, first of all, it was quite an honor for her to say this to me because we had, both my daughters, I have a great relationship with them that I can talk about anything, and I've actually used some of my adversity as a tool of learning for them. And so when I've been able to articulate with them about how this stuff happens and how I can get through it and work through it, they know it's not a part of me anymore because I can walk away from it. I can talk about it as if it's my wallet sitting in my purse right there, okay, because it's not part of me anymore. But it is a part of a lot of people's lives. So my daughter she had just made forensics for state in our state of Wisconsin, and she wanted to read the poem because she really wanted to. I want to make a really big impact, and I know that story is really powerful, Mom. So she said, can you please just write a poem for me about when you were raped and beaten up? And I said, sure, no problem. I mean, this was an actual conversation. Said, well, how long does it have to be? About 8 minutes. I said, okay, well, I said, when is it due? Oh, it's a couple days. Oh, well, honey, I've got 3 things going right now, but let's see if I can just write an outline tonight. That's what I was doing. And then I realized when I started writing, I thought, you know what? This might be a little tough because this is really giving details. In a poem, there's a lot of meaningful, very emotional things in there. So I thought, okay, who better to ask to help me than my inner child, who will look at it from a childlike view and actually allow me to remove myself even more so from it, but yet still talk about it as if it's happening to someone else. That's what happened. So that's what I did is I called upon my inner child. I love her. She's great. She's 7 years old. She's really literal, and she takes on anything that you ask her. At least my inner child does. I know all I have to do is ask him. And what I did is I just wrote, and I just wrote. I actually have only about 4 or 5 words that I actually changed since the moment I wrote it. I wrote for 2 hours solid, and I got it out. And I cried afterwards because I was so happy to have done this because it was such a release. And if anybody has had something go on, they should really read this poem because it will allow you to, I've had people that have told me that it allowed me to really put my story in there, and I felt you, and I felt my story being part of it. They love that poem, which I'm very proud of, and I love that people are getting some meaning from it. But what happened afterwards is this, is that I was able to write not a poem that's going to win a Pulitzer Prize. It just had a lot of meaning. It had a lot of release for me, and it was the most meaningful thing I have ever written in my life before I wrote the book. And I just was so proud of myself. At the same time, I realized at the end when I was writing it all, I realized how much I had been so congenial that was what caused the problem, because I was just going, well, okay, you can go out drinking some more. I don't want to. I'm just going to fall asleep on your roommate's bed. No problem. I'm just going to be here. He says, well, we'll talk about it when I get back. Okay, great. Well, guess what I found out? I found out that not all communication is verbal. Some of it's nonverbal, and it's not nice. So the part that I look at is that this happens to a lot of girls in every college, and boys too. And it's not fun. It's not a good thing. But what if by reading this, I was so empowered when I read this. I went, you know what? If anybody reads this and they're going to college, they will look at this and maybe they'll think about this before they do something silly like I did and said, oh, okay, I'll just wait for you to get back. Maybe if I can help at least 1 or 2 or 10 or 100 or 1,000 people when they read the poem, if they can look at it and say, wow, I think I might think about that before if something like that happens to me. If I can help, I would love to know that those 2 hours were spent to help dozens and dozens of people everywhere, and that's the important part about that poem, is it's a preventative measure. It really is. But it happened to me, happened to lots of people. I just happened to write about the cheese and the moon that I thought of. I was so naive
well, you start
that
out
I
with,
really
with
thought
the phrase and the page on the first page, you start out with, where did I see the first one? Maybe the moon was made out of cheese, and then you go on, and the moon really would be made out of cheese. And you weave in and out of this, like the man in the moon. There's a chance the moon really is made out of cheese, and by the time you get to the end, nah, not so much.
You know it's
very,
not.
Very interesting.
Because the knowledge that you learn from owning your own power and realizing what has happened and what you can do about it, that is the key. I get goosebumps when I'm talking about it right now. Seriously, it is so powerful to own that and to say, you know what, it's not the end of the world. This happened to me. This happens to a lot of people. It's not good. I don't like it. But can we move forward? Yes, we can. But we have to realize what we can do about it. Yes. So
we sure can try, and by being so open with your experience, I guess you are really going to help a lot of people. It's rough to get through the poem because you don't know exactly where it's going, and you were, honestly, Kat, you were lucky to be alive when it was over. It was brutal. I'm not going to go into detail,
was very
but
lucky
it's on
to be
page
alive, yes.
Very lucky. Just by a quirk of something hitting the desk and not your head, you were lucky to be alive. Now, let's go to some of the questions.
Can I add one little quick thing? Is that I was so addicted to congeniality, I almost died from it one night. Imagine that.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
So
now,
let's
segue into a couple of the topics I got from your one sheet. Why are women still so impressed by powerful men? I would like to know that. Do you have the answer, Kat Dolls?
Well, I think that there are a couple things. We perceive ourselves sometimes as being less than someone else, which is not true. Because just because somebody has a title or they've been in a movie or something else doesn't mean that they're better than I am. They just have a different position in life than I have. I'm an author, and some other people would love to be an author, and they look up to me, and I look up to other people. But we are the same. We're not, one person is not better than the other. So I think if we were to look at that, if we were feeling that we all matter, let's start with that. We all matter. We are people, and we have value. We perceive people as being more valuable than us. And when we do that, sometimes we go, oh, look, they paid attention to me. Oh, look, they think I'm special now because they noticed me. They paid attention to me, and all this stuff goes on, okay? And when we do that, when we perceive that, sometimes we also, by looking up to these people, can perceive that as like a little meal ticket. Oh, well, look, if I can get in with them, that would be great, you know. And we can easily, make ourselves feel like we are really getting a meal ticket on that. Well, that's not true, because really, if we feel our own power and own that, and have the realization that we all matter, we're all important, the more we own that power, the more we don't need to have others to build us up or to make us feel special, because we do feel special inside. So if we can still be the person that we are, knowing that we're important, there's other people that are in different positions in life than we are. Allow them to be in that position, respect them for them, but respect yourself at the same time. The self-respect a lot of times is what you're missing when you're thinking these men are so powerful. And part of that is just that we're in awe of this. But you know what? They really, at the end of the day, put their pants on the same way. They go to the bathroom the same way. I mean, we are the same kind of people. So, I mean, really, that's what it is. That's my answer.
Yep, so just reduce it to the common denominator. I looked up why women are attracted to powerful men, Kat. I was curious, and I found an old article from Huffington Post in the women's section, and it was a study called Do Women Really Want Rich Men? I'll just read one tiny little sentence here. The first one, this is from a study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology dating back to 2011. That guy smiling from behind the wheel of his shiny Porsche may indeed be trying to impress a woman with it, but he's probably only interested in a fling. Aha. We'll just leave that one alone. That's a whole other show completely. So let's talk about one more topic before we move on, before I go to introduce Diane. My screen just flipped. That's why I choked there for a second. So you have here simple tools, surprisingly simple tools to free yourself from your past. So is the poem that you wrote, Kat, one of those tools? Tell us. See, we have about 5 minutes left. So tell me, what are the tools you recommend?
Well, first of all, freeing yourself from your past involves responsibility. I hate to tell everybody, but it does. It involves that.
Oh my!
The first thing you have to do is acknowledge what was done. What did I do? What was my part in what happened? That kind of thing. Then determining what you can do about it. Like some of the things you can't do anything about because it's already, you have to just be able to release it. But part of that releasing is forgiving yourself. For example, I'll go back to my situation in the dorm room when I was beaten up and raped. It was super important to me that I realized what my part was, and that was being too congenial. And what I did is I stayed in the room when I could have left for 4 hours. For example,
yes.
Getting my past gone in that particular specific instance was that I had to realize I had an opportunity to go to somebody else's dorm room. I could go out and do something else. I could have gone to the bus station and just sat there. I could have left for 4 hours. I stayed there because I wanted to still be liked. Now, when I'm freeing myself from my past, I have to really be honest, brutally honest with myself to say, what did I do? Did I walk in a very dark alley at a certain time? Did I stay in a dorm room when I shouldn't have done? What could I have changed to have prevented this? That's where I look. Okay. Now, sometimes there are things that are not preventable, and that's something, a whole other topic. But what I'm saying is to free yourself from that thing that's holding you back. Acknowledge what that is. Own what parts you can do, and then forgive yourself. And in that forgiveness, again, is another set of acknowledgement of what's happened, ownership, and then the releasing. You can't release something and release your past unless you own what you did and what happened and how it affected you. Because, for example, if we went out and I got wine on my shirt or something and I went to borrow a shirt from you and I wore it that night, and when I got home the next day, I can't just give it away to Goodwill. You know why? Because I don't own it. Okay? I can't release something if I don't own it. So that's the part in releasing your past and in your little tidbits, whatever ways are best for you. If you want to write a poem, read mine so that you can understand that you don't have to have training, okay, because nobody may never see it, or the whole world may see it someday. So just writing sometimes a story about it, writing maybe a collage. Could be that you talk about it with somebody. Maybe it's a professional. Maybe it's a priest. Maybe it's a girlfriend. Maybe it's a sister goddess. Maybe it's your parents or whatever. Talk about it with somebody. Do a collage about some of these things, of releasing some of these things, so that you can overpower yourself in this thought process. Because the thought process of beating yourself up with all of these things you're telling yourself, that you're not enough, that nobody's going to like you, whatever it is you tell yourself in that negative voice, because we all have it around us. Some of us have it more at times and less. But that's the powerful part right there, is to stop and say, okay, you know what, I've had enough right now. I think we're going to replace this with some positive thoughts now. Instead of saying that, let's say this. You can do that for yourself in your head, because if somebody's doing that to you and saying things to you like, oh, you're not enough, you're not good enough, you're not going to have this, or you're not going to be enough. I was told by my father that I wasn't going to be, I'm not college material, by the way, and that I was never going to amount to anything.
Never, you were going to be
your choices
were secretary or something like that.
Yeah.
Kat,
So I
it's
gave you
just
some
about
choices.
Our time is just about up. It's really been interesting speaking with you, but I do want to make sure we give everybody your website before you and I introduce Diane, who's waiting patiently. Diane, I will open your mic in a minute, and you will then hear us introduce you. But, Kat, I'm looking at your website on getyourgoddessonthebook.com. Is that the one?
Yes, that is it.
I'm going to spell it because I love to spell long URLs. Thank God. God bless you, long URL. So get, G-E-T, your, Y-O-U-R, goddess, G-O-D-D-E-S-S, on, O-N, the book, THEBOOK.com. And you'll see a beautiful picture of lovely purple flowers, and then you'll see a beautiful picture of lovely blonde curly cat dolls. And if you scroll down, you'll read about her in media, and you'll see buy the book, and then you'll be able to see the gorgeous gown she is wearing. So scroll down to buy the book. And, Kat, I'm going to ask you to help me right now. Diane, I'm opening your line. Don't say a peep, Diane. Kat, I'm going to ask you to help me welcome Diane Huth. So we're going to say on the count of 3, welcome Diane Huth. Do you think you're up for that, Ms. Goddess?
I think I am, absolutely.
Okay, let's see if we can make it work. And Diane is going to chat with you for a minute before I go into her topic. So, 1, 2, 3. Welcome.
Welcome.
Diane.
Welcome, Diane Huth.
Huth. Hi, Diane. It's the Bonnie and Goddess Show. How are you? Maybe it's Bonnie the Goddess. I don't know. How are you, Diane?
I think it is Bonnie
I
the
am
Goddess.
wonderful. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed hearing the details from Kat about her experience. We had chatted before, but I didn't know the details. It was very moving and very true. We are conditioned to try and be nice. So it's very uplifting and motivating to hear you share this experience to help prevent other women from being devastated like you were. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Well, you are welcome.
And thank
That's
you, Bonnie.
very, very positive. Diane, do you consider yourself a goddess? We define goddess as special and beautiful and smart and unique. What do you think? Are you a goddess?
I believe I am a goddess. I don't believe I know I am a goddess. Of course I'm a goddess.
I think that's part of the reason Kat wrote the book, right, Kat? So that women will know that they can be a goddess, and they already are. Am I right, Kat Dolls?
That's exactly it. And I also want them to say it. I am a goddess. So, Diane, let's hear it.
I am. Let's hear it.
I am a goddess.
Come on, Diane. I am a goddess.
I am a goddess.
We just got our goddess on. We just got our goddess on.
Yes. Own it. Love it. Yes.
Kat, I'm going to give you a choice. I can mute your line, or if you want to do something in the background, but I'd love for you to listen to Diane's segment, and then I'll bring you on at about 5 minutes before the end so you can chat with Diane before we finish, or I can leave your line open. What's your preference, Kat?
You can go ahead and mute me, and then that way then if all the things I can hear and I can write and I can laugh and probably enjoy everything that she's saying too.
And then I'll bring you on 5 or 7 minutes before the end. I'll give you a chance to talk. So thank you. Kat Dolls, don't go away because we're going to bring you back. So I'm muting Kat's line. And Diane, who's such a pleasure to have you. You did a beautiful job on your book. You are a maven of branding. And how in the world do you call yourself an accidental career coach? I didn't get that at all. Diane, welcome to Read My Lips. How are you first?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Bonnie. The reason that I'm accidental career coach is I'm really a brand marketer. That's what I've done for the last 30 years. I've worked for big Fortune 100 companies in the marketing and advertising and branding department, and at this point in my life, I have started teaching marketing, giving back at 2 different universities. I teach graduating seniors, kind of a capstone or a major class in marketing, and I was stunned that these bright, brilliant, wonderful students of mine did not have a clue on how to get a job when they graduated 2 months later. I'm teaching graduating seniors, and they don't know how to put together a resume, interview for a job, find a job. They don't have any preparation. So I sat down and I wrote what basically became this book in how you use the tools that I teach you in marketing, social media, advertising, positioning, all those tools that I'm teaching you about marketing to market the most important thing, which is yourself. And because we are brands, we have to think of ourselves as a brand. You think of yourself clearly as a brand. You have exuded your personal branding. Yes, you do. So has Kat. And we all need to really recognize that we are brands in life, and people react to us as a brand the same same way you would a bottle of wine or a bottle of perfume. You have to promise wonderful things you're going to do, and then you have to deliver them, and you have to communicate those attributes, and you have to showcase them. And that's really how you get a job. It's a lot more technical than just, but you have to understand that as the basic mentality. Yes.
Of course, but what's interesting to me, Diane, is that, first of all, shocking that kids go through college. Somebody's paying a lot of money no matter where you go to college, and they know there's a next step, but they don't know how to get there, unprepared. Amazing. In my language, we would call this a shanda. In Yiddish, it's a shame. It's a shame. Why don't they know? And I'm sure they're very happy to have the expertise you bring to your classes. I'm no surprise that you're in such demand. Accidental, I get that now. So let's talk about, you said me a couple of articles, a couple of lists and bullet points, very interesting, a few days ago, and you asked me if I wanted to focus rather than on college students getting a job, instead on the fact that millennials are very popular in the workplace today. They are savvy. They are cool. They also have a very broad cohort, demographic cohort, because some of them are almost 35 years old and some of them are much less, much fewer years. So they're certainly out there in different stages of readiness to take jobs. But the marketplace loves them. They just love them, even though they seem to be a problem. Right. They're really getting what corporate is about. So here, let's take a boomer, 50, 55, 60. Oh, my goodness, the nerve of people in that age group, Diane, the nerve of wanting to stay employed, excuse me, and the nerve of some of them retiring. Oh, go away. Go volunteer. Oh, go knit or sew or play golf. And they want to come back in the workforce. Whoever thought of such an audacious thing? So this is what we're seeing. So now let's talk about how you apply your expertise to advising boomers on, they're not just getting back into any workforce, it's the millennial-infused workforce, the youth-loving culture. I think I'm spot on that. Diane, so what do you tell people who might have had a career for 30, 40 years and have not had to write a resume in 10, 20, 30 years? What do you tell them?
Well, it's a challenge, and we have to really apply ourselves. I'm going to put myself, because I am well in the boomer age, so I'm talking about myself and my friends and my cohort.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, I mean, we really have to apply yourself to rethink your career. My upcoming book that I'm writing right now is going to be called Rebrand Yourself to Reinvent Your Career, and you really have to reinvent yourself. We have become comfortable in our jobs many times, but the world is changing. And what I've discovered painfully, and with the help of my son, who's 28, and he helped to explain a lot of this to me, is organizations are changing. They're becoming more agile. They're becoming flattened. They're becoming completely digital, paperless, changing the organization structure. And we older people are very comfortable the way it always was, and companies are changing. The millennials reflect that. The millennials are living that. And so we have got to up our game to transform ourselves to fit into these organizations, or we will be left behind.
Very, very well put. And let me just I just want to ask you for a nuance on what you said, Diane. The nuance to me would be, you can't just say, oh, I'm over 50 and I just learned how to use Outlook and I can do a schedule and a calendar and I know how to use email. Aren't I really cool? It has to be seamless. It has to flow. It has to seem like you grew up with it. Am I right? It can't just be, look what I learned. You have to do it as well as everybody else. Yes or no?
Yes. My number one advice is tech up. You've got to get your technology up. I was talking to my son, and he explains that in his office, which is a paperless office, he uses 15 different pieces of software on a normal day. It's beyond Word and PowerPoint. You have to really understand that everything has gone digital today. Everything is mobile. And so we really have to do that. Now, how do you do that? There are a lot of organizations that will train people on basic computer skills. Goodwill has training. Community colleges have wonderful programs. They're inexpensive, flexible time. There are online programs. There are programs you can buy. And then, the Internet is there. I mean, you can Google anything and find it on YouTube and learn that way. One of the other things that you really need to do is more than just the computer clicking skills is the mindset. and therefore you need to really engage in your professional development organizations, whatever your field is, and you need to get engaged because normally professional organizations or your industry, trade or organizations, they focus on leading trends, and so they'll have speakers who come in and talk about new technologies, new trends, new insights. So the second thing I think we boomers need to do is double down on networking. You need to network professionally. You need to get involved in your organizations for your industry. You need to be seen. You need to be known. And you need to really embrace what is new and exciting in the workplace. And that will be really critical in bringing your skill set up to speed in these areas that we have become deficient, because many of us are digital dinosaurs. We have got to transform and at least be on a ground that we can work effectively with these digital natives. It's painful, but we got to do it.
Very well put. It is. It can be. Now, I have to tell you, I was teaching certain types of computer classes for adult ed locally. I don't know if you mentioned adult ed. You mentioned community colleges. But we saw such a downturn in adults in the community who wanted to learn. I was teaching eBay, social networking, a little bit of online dating, and blogging and using internet radio. Woohoo, how to start your own radio show. We saw such a downturn in adults in our community, and I'm on the North Shore of Long Island, Diane, a very affluent area, but an aging population. And we saw a downturn in interest in the computer department to the extent that they had to dissolve us. I dropped out 2 years ago because we just couldn't even sell our classes. But here's what I think was happening. I think seniors, boomers who wanted to learn were, A, buying a Macintosh and going to the Apple store and getting the lessons included with it, A. B, they were learning and imposing on their children and grandchildren to teach them. That's the trend I think I was seeing, was it became a family responsibility. Have you run across that at all, Diane?
I haven't. My son is very frustrated with me when I call and ask for technology help. He says, Mom,
there you
Google
go.
it.
There you go. But you have to know what to do with Google once you're doing it.
But it really is important that you make a conscious effort, that you are going to do what is a painful effort for a lot of us, is you really have to up your skills. And if you say, I'm not going to do it, that's your choice. And a lot of people will say, it's just too hard for me, I'm not going to do it. But that's your choice. You are abandoning your place in the workforce today in many ways. So do it or die today.
Very well put.
Unfortunately.
Now let's talk a little bit about resumes. Now, is it okay to say, look at the 15 jobs I had or the one job I had for 30 years, and I can bring so much expertise and maturity to your job. Look what I can do for you. Is that life experience, job experience in the past in different fields, is that enough to get a boomer in the door, at least to get a phone call from HR for an interview? What's the use it or lose it? If I can say that, Diane. What do you recommend that seniors might, or I'll just keep saying boomers, sorry, Bonnie, stop saying seniors. Boomers, what is valuable from previous work if you want to enter a slightly new field where you require new technological skills? What do you think?
Well, I think you have to show accomplishments. You have to show a focus on accomplishments. One of the biggest mistakes that people of all age make on their resume is they talk about tasks. They say, my responsibilities were this. What's really more important is, what have you achieved? Tell me in quantifiable terms what you have achieved, led, spearheaded. What are those quantifiable things that shows that you're an excellent performer? That's one of the things. People get them confused. And so a resume should be focused around achievements and not just areas of responsibility. That's very important. And I think
very important.
Yeah, go ahead.
And by the way, Diane, we're seeing that in the workplace today. I'm still very gainfully employed, and we're seeing that where when you're doing a review with your manager, or you're doing your goal setting, which is also very popular in big organizations. It's not about how busy you are. It's not about the activities you do. It's not about your responsibilities. It's about one word: results. What did you achieve? That's the word you used. What happened? Is the company better off for what you did? So you might be manager of XYZ. Did you increase the customer base? Did you increase the report card from customers saying, wow, customer service is really better because Bobby was sitting at the phones? Did you save money? Did you open a new area? Did you train people? Did the people you mentored go on to better success and do more for the company? So that's hard for some people to do that translation, isn't it? question it, Diane. All they want to think about is I was responsible for. How do you get the older population to make that? Do they need to sit down with an accidental career coach like you to find those nuggets, Diane?
I find that many people, talented, intelligent, educated people, can't be objective enough to write their own resume. They don't understand these wonderful gems that are hidden in their background, and they aren't objective enough. So I think it's very helpful to have somebody else interview, talk with you, find those secrets that somebody wants, and then help put them on paper for you. One of the things that's very useful is LinkedIn is basically a resume building program. And everybody has to have a LinkedIn page. LinkedIn is critical. 94% of all recruiters use LinkedIn as the basic job search tool. And about 3/4 of all hiring managers will look at your LinkedIn page. So it's really, really important. But LinkedIn walks you step by step and asks you questions and helps you build a resume. When you're building a resume, you really have to build a resume for 3 different entities or people. And the thing is, you have to balance it. It's not real easy. Number 1, you have to appeal to your hiring manager. The person, when you interview at the very end of the process, you want something that's going to be engaging to him and that he's going to say, that person looks interesting. I want to meet that person. For example, I had a student, and he didn't put on his resume, but I found out he was a professional horse racing jockey. I want to talk to him just because I don't know any race jockeys, I would like to talk with him.
Absolutely.
I hired a young man, and he had been working for the largest comic book company in Europe, Asterix, and I wanted to talk with somebody who had been principal in running a comic book company because I didn't know anything about it. So I, as a hiring manager, want to be intrigued by something that you offer, whether it's an affinity for sports or anything that we have in common or simply something of interest. That's the last person that you need to meet. The HR people, I'm going up kind of the hierarchy. The HR people, they want to make sure that you have solid qualifications. They're going to check your references. They're going to make sure you have your transcripts and a good GPA, and they're going to give you all these, they're going to rank you and rate you by what they perceive as your corporate or your business skills on a quantifiable basis. But the first step, which most people don't know, I didn't until I started to research it, is that today 50% of all jobs go online. So you've got Monster and Career Builder and Indeed and all these different companies. You list your resumes there, and they go into a black hole. That's why you never hear from them. There's what we call a hiring. They disappear. You never hear from them again. It's a black hole. Because what happens is there is a hiring funnel, and I'll give you an example that just will blow your mind. A regular resume for any old job will be posted on these job sites. We'll get 1,000 people looking at it, searching for and looking at it. Of those 1,000 people, 200 people will start to apply for a job, but only 100 will finish the application. Half are going to drop out before you get there. Of those 100 people, 3/4 or 75 of the people will be kicked out by a computer algorithm called ATS, Applicant Tracking System, because the computer is going to computer scan what's on your resume with the job description and see how well they match. So you have to write your resume also for the robot or the computer algorithm so it finds an exact match, which is the opposite of what you're doing with your hiring manager because you're trying to be intriguing. So the secret is to know and maybe even put on a little grid, which I like to actually paste. You have to personalize every application and every resume for each job so it will match the words. So, for example, if the job description says, I want someone who can do QuickBooks, and your resume says an assortment of accounting software, it doesn't match because the words aren't the same. In essence, they are.
So you're looking for the keywords. The keywords have to match from the job offering. job offering to what you, so each resume has to be personalized. Diane, I want to stop you for a second. This is fabulous information. I read your book cover to cover, and I was hoping you'd cover this, and you're certainly doing it beautifully. My question is, if you're over 50, 55, 60, and you're coming back into the workforce, or simply you're in and you just want to change jobs, how far back do you go on your job history, and how much detail do they actually expect? They want your high school transcript? I mean, if you're 60 years old, is it even in existence anymore? Do they want your GPA? How far, what's the look back for somebody over 55, let's say?
I think the counsel is that you want no more than 20 years. You might mention other, like if I've got a two-page resume because I've been around forever and I've had lots of different jobs. So I would summarize, with just kind of a headline saying I've also done this, this, this. But the key focus is on what you've done in the last 10 to 20 years maximum. I think your university, you want to just say, I have a university degree in XYZ, and if you have some stellar accomplishments like I was valedictorian, you want to put that there. But you really want to try and keep what I say is a one-page summary resume. So for initial, you might want to have a one-page summary that highlights the key points, and then say a detailed resume is available. So if you get to the point where they like what they've seen so far, then you come out with your two-page detailed resume that goes over a lot more quantifiable information. But the thing is to try and get a one-page resume that can be quickly scanned, and recruiters look for only 4 pieces of information. They want to know the company that you work for, they want to look at the years you worked for them, the title, and your education, what degree you have. Those are the 4 things that they're going to look at as they scan a paper resume, or if they scan, once the computer has said, yes, this is okay, a recruiter looks for those 4 pieces of information. So you want to make sure any prestigious companies are listed. You want to make sure you have a job title that's clear, that explains your responsibility, and you should put the years on there. But I would go back no more than 10 to 20 years. You could say something like other job responsibilities have
other jobs or previous experience includes and available on request, something like that. Now, how much of your family do you put on there? Do you say married? I've got 3 grandchildren, and I'm living in my beautiful home overlooking the ocean. None of that, right?
None of it. They want to know what you can do for them, not what they can do for you. You have to position yourself. And how am I going to contribute tomorrow to make your company better? How can I help
what can you do for their
company goals?
Exactly. They're not there to help you. They're there to hire you to make the company better or work on their bottom line. Very interesting. As far as LinkedIn goes and Facebook goes, I just want you to spend a moment just sharing the same advice I'm sure you give to young people looking for jobs, Diane, that nothing ever, ever, ever goes away, that drunken picture or that picture of you or that crappy language you're using on Twitter about the current political climate. I've seen some colleagues of mine use some very harsh language, and I'm shocked because they're very professional, and I can't believe they're putting it out there. Not everybody can be what's-her-name who was slamming Delta Airlines yesterday. We'll leave that one alone. But anyway, the message should be careful. If you're in the job market or thinking back, be careful what you post, even on Facebook with so-called family and friends, if it's public-facing. Am I right with that? And what would your caution be, Diane?
Absolutely. At least 40 to 45% of employers, your hiring manager will look at your Facebook page before they hire you. There are 6 key social media pages that every professional who is job hunting should have and should use appropriately for the right purpose. LinkedIn, we talked about, is for finding jobs. Facebook, I'm going to look at your Facebook page to find out who you are, what your values are, what you do with your time. Do you volunteer for charities? Do you go to church? Do you help other people? Or do you sit around as a couch potato and drink? What language do you use? Do you swear? Do you say offensive things?
Yes.
I'm going to look for that. And a large number of employees will be kicked out of the employment pool for what is on your Facebook page. You can go in and fix it, make sure that all contemporary things that you do showcase you in a favorable light, not in an unfavorable light. If there's something in your past you don't want it to haunt you, go and delete those posts or ask the people who posted it to delete it from your profile. Twitter is very much the same. Twitter is allows an employer to find out what your thought leaders are. Do you follow the Kardashians and what the latest fashion is, or do you follow someone in politics, a journalist, a writer, a leader in your industry, somebody who does good work? So you can use Twitter to follow inspirational leaders and to post responsibly things that are uplifting or informative. So Twitter can help you or hurt you. Same thing, Pinterest does the same thing, allows you to engage people with similar interests, and you can have a Pinterest page that talks about your profession and what you learn and who your business leaders are or your industry leaders are. So all of these programs, YouTube is surprisingly important. It can be a wonderful job hunting tool, not for showing your family vacation, but for tracking the companies you want to work for, because you can subscribe to their channel. Say you want to work for Pampers. That's the company, Procter & Gamble. Everybody wants to work in marketing for Pampers. So you go to the brands and the company, you subscribe to their YouTube feed, and then whenever anything new is posted, you get an alert immediately when it's posted what they're doing. You can respond right there in the comments, but you can also use that to then call or email the hiring manager, said, I really love the new promotion you're doing, or I was fascinated by your new TV ad, or I really resonated with what you just posted. You're giving them feedback. They know you're sharp and on top of stuff.
Thank you, Diane. We have to stop. I just turned on Kat's. I have to get Kat in here now. We're running great information, by the way. I hate to cut you off, Kat. You're back on live with us, and Kat, I'm going to give you 60 seconds to talk to Diane. What did you think, Kat Dolph? Any questions for Diane?
Well, number one, I was very impressed with her when I met her in New York, and now I'm even more impressed, and I was sweating a little bit because I'm thinking how much I don't know. So it was kind of fun. But I also had to reinvent myself, and I was wondering if there's anything you can talk about after an injury. I've just recently, in the last year or so, had to reinvent myself after an injury. Is there anything in particular you can help with that with people? Because I know I struggled with it for at least a year and want to know if there's anything you have as advice.
You mean you were out of the job market for a year, Kat, because of an injury?
I did professional landscaping for many years, and I had an injury in my hand and couldn't use my hand for about 9 months. In quite the same way, so I had to reinvent myself, and what I did is I ended up finishing my book and doing a few other things, but it was kind of a haphazard thing. I wasn't as organized as what you were talking about. That's why I was sweating.
Okay, Diane, can you give her a 30-second answer, because I need to get what's next for you, and I want to give your website. Diane, go ahead, quick answer, please.
Okay, I do believe that you need to you reinvent yourself as you go through ages. We are not the same person at 60 or at 40 or at 50 as you were when you were 20. So you really have to evaluate what is it that I want to do going forward, because it may not be with the decision I made 20 years ago. So you really need to say, what are my passions today? How can I apply all these skills and expertise and that I have, and what do I want to do in the next 10 years? It's not what I did the last 10 years. It's going to be something new. I don't want to just do what I've already done. I want to create something new, build something new, experience something new. So there's soul searching to say, what's next for me?
Yeah. Okay.
I like that. And by the way, we're at the part of the show where I ask you what's next for you. But, Diane, I want to give your website. It's Brand You Guide, BrandYouGuide.com. Great stuff. Diane, I'll let you go for less than 60 seconds. What's next for you, Ms. Diane Huth?
I am writing my new book, which I hope to have out in October, which is Rebrand You to Reinvent Your Career. And that is a very exciting project that I'm working on. I would like to give all of your listeners a free gift, if I may, Bonnie. I would like to give everybody a 15-page career checklist and career guide. It's available at HireMeNowPlease.com. HireMeNowPlease.com. And if you want to download it, and you can check it out and see where you are on your job search journey. And if you'd like to find my book, it's available on Amazon and in Kindle and paperback format.
Thank you. We have 90 seconds left. Laura, you're going to go to HireMeNowPlease.com. There's a beautiful picture of Diane and free 15-page checklist. Laura, I want you to do that. Kat, 20 seconds. What's next for you? Talk real fast, my dear.
Real fast, I have a goddess retreat coming up on October 7th. Next week, all the details will be on my website, and you've already given that. It's www.getyourgoddessonthebook.com. It's on Amazon, Kindle, and paperback. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it, and I love what
Wonderful.
Diane
By the way, ladies, don't go away. We're going to do the big moi kiss. So I've got the music on very quiet in the background. So Diane Huth and Cat Dolls, take a deep breath all the way in the bottom of the diaphragm. I know you can do this, ladies. And let's go a big moi kiss out to the world to be your own goddess, whoever you are, and find your power and get the job of your dreams. Here we go. See if you can hold it. Longer, longer, longer. Oh, you're good.
God.
We got a big long moire in there somewhere. Diane Huth, such a pleasure. Cat Doll, such a pleasure. Thank you both for being goddesses and authentic ladies with such heart and such caring and so smart, and your books are great. I'm Bonnie D. Graham, a.k.a. Radio-Red. I'll be back next week with another edition of Read My Lips Radio. So hugs and kisses to all. Have a great week. Go out and do something very special, and be good to yourself. Stop saying yes to everybody else. There's a note for Cat Dolls. Okay, everyone, have a great one. Ready to sign off. Here we go. And my final word. Bye-bye. Goodbye.